I woke up with salt water in my mouth and splinters in my cheek. For a few seconds, I thought I had fallen asleep beside the ocean. Then the floor moved. My eyes snapped open. There was no floor. There were 3 cracked boards tied together with rotten rope, a snapped mast no taller than my shoulder, and a torn scrap of canvas flapping like a surrender flag. Beyond that, there was only water. Blue water under a white-hot sky. Blue water behind me. Blue water in every direction. I tried to push myself up, and the raft dipped so hard that my left hand vanished into the sea. Something brushed my fingers under the surface. I yanked my hand back. A gray fin cut across the waves about 20 yards away. Then the memories arrived. They did not come gently. They hit like a bucket of ice. My name in this world was Noah Reed. 15 years old. Dock rat. Cargo boy. Cheap hands for noble ships. The world was called Asterian, but most people just called it the drowned world. Long ago, the old continents cracked and sank. The rich took the islands. The guilds took the shipping lanes. Everyone else learned to live wherever the tide did not kill them first. Noah had worked at Greyhook Harbor until yesterday morning. A noble expedition had needed extra labor for a crossing to the western ruins. They promised 3 silver pieces, a hot meal, and a safe ride home. At sunset, a storm rose. At midnight, something hit the ship from below. The captain shouted that the deck was too heavy. The nobles saved their trunks first. Then they threw the poor overboard. Noah had not died instantly. He had clung to broken planks while the ship sailed away. He had watched a lantern vanish into rain. And sometime before dawn, his body became mine. I stared at the torn skin on my palms. Not my hands. Not my world. But the thirst was real. The hunger was real. And the shark circling my raft was very real. A blue screen flashed open in front of me. Welcome, survivor. Class awakened. Wreckage scavenger. Primary trait. Nothing is useless. I blinked hard. The screen stayed there. A wave slapped the side of the raft and nearly tipped me over. A second line appeared. Starter tool available. Salvage hook. A rusted hook with a rope handle dropped onto the boards beside my knee. It looked like something a fisherman would throw away. The hook was bent. The rope had knots in 3 different places. The handle was just a piece of driftwood wrapped in cloth. I picked it up anyway. A barrel floated 20 yards away. So did broken planks, palm leaves, a cracked bottle, and what looked like a dead fish caught in a net. The shark turned again. Its fin moved closer. I had played survival games back on Earth. Raft. Subnautica. Rust. Games where the first rule was always the same. Do not panic. The second rule was even simpler. Pick up everything. I swung the hook. The first throw missed completely. The rope splashed uselessly into the water. I pulled it back, coughing, arms shaking. The second throw caught a plank for half a second, then slipped off. The shark bumped the raft from below. The boards jumped. I hit my elbow and saw sparks. The third throw landed around the barrel. I dragged it in 1 inch at a time. My shoulders burned. The shark came faster. The barrel scraped against the edge of the raft. I grabbed it with both hands and rolled backward just as jaws snapped shut where my wrist had been. The barrel crashed onto the boards. The raft sank a little lower. The system chimed. Salvage acquired. Broken barrel. Contents. Salt-stained rags X3, split planks X2, copper nails X4, moldy biscuit X1. Recipe unlocked. Basic water catcher. I laughed once. It was not a happy laugh. It was the sound a person makes when the universe has just handed him a tutorial while trying to drown him. The biscuit smelled like wet socks. I ate it anyway. Every bite stuck to my tongue, but it was food. The water catcher recipe hung in the air like a dare. Split planks X2. Salt-stained rags X2. Copper nails X3. I used the snapped mast as a support, stretched the rags under the torn canvas, and hammered the copper nails with a stone I found wedged between the boards. The result looked pathetic. A crooked triangle of cloth and wood. But when sea mist blew across it, clear drops began to gather along the lower edge. 1 drop. 2. 3. They fell into the cracked bottle. I watched them like they were gold. An hour later, I had enough water to wet my tongue. The system did not praise me. It only displayed one quiet line. Survival chance, 9%. That was better than 0. By midday, the sun turned my neck red. I caught more planks, more leaves, and a bundle of rope so tangled it looked alive. Every throw mattered. Every miss cost strength. Twice the shark lunged and bit the raft. The first time, it tore away half a board. The second time, I shoved the hook into its nose. It thrashed back, and the rope burned my palm open. Blood ran down my wrist. The shark tasted it in the water. Its circles became tighter. The system offered a new recipe. Defensive spike. Materials: broken plank X1, copper nail X2, rope scrap X1. I made 4. They were ugly, uneven, and barely sharp. I tied them along the weakest edge. The shark returned at sunset. It came from the shadow side of the raft, silent until the last second. Then I cut rope. Then I tied boards. Then I made the raft 4 boards wide instead of 3. It still looked like trash, but now it was trash that floated better. At dawn, the first real object appeared on the horizon. Not a ship, not land. A door. A wooden door floated alone in the water, painted blue once, now cracked and swollen by salt. Someone had carved words into it. I pulled it in with the hook. The door was heavier than it looked. There was a brass latch on one side, a broken hinge on the other, and nail marks where something had tried to claw through. When I touched the carving, the system translated it. Property of Waveward Orphan House. I went still. An orphan house. Out here. The drowned world did not throw only cargo into the sea. It threw away people. I broke the latch and found a small compartment inside the doorframe. A waterproof pouch slid into my hand. Inside was a damp map fragment, 3 fishhooks, and a child's drawing. A square house. A crooked sun. 6 stick figures holding hands on a dock. I folded the drawing carefully and put it in my shirt. The map fragment showed nearby reefs, shipping currents, and a place marked with a black X. Under the X, someone had written one word. Tidebone. The system flashed. Side objective discovered. Reach Tidebone Reef. Estimated distance, 18 miles. Current raft speed, pathetic. I almost laughed again. Even the system had an attitude. I spent the morning turning the blue door into a proper deck panel. The brass latch became a hinge for a storage box. The fishhooks became a fishing line. The torn canvas became a small sail. By noon, the raft moved with the current instead of drifting like a corpse. By evening, I caught my first fish. It was silver, ugly, and too bony. I cut it with the shark tooth knife and dried strips of it under the sun. The first bite nearly made me cry. Not because it tasted good, because I had made it possible. On the second night, I saw lights. 3 lanterns bobbing in the dark. At first I thought they were stars reflected on the water. Then one of them moved against the current. I crouched low. The raft creaked beneath me. A small lifeboat drifted toward me, half sunk, its bow broken open. Inside lay a girl wrapped around a crate, one arm locked through the rope, as if she had died, refusing to let go. She was not dead. When I pulled the lifeboat close, she opened one eye. Gray eye, sharp as a knife. She raised a small crossbow at my throat. Her hand shook badly, but the bolt was loaded. Water. Her voice was cracked to nothing. I looked at the crossbow, then at the cracked bottle beside my water catcher. There were maybe 5 mouthfuls inside. I pushed the bottle toward her with my foot. Drink one, then lower that before you fall over. She stared at me. Only one. You shoot me, you get the rest. Then you die tomorrow because you don't know how the catcher works. A tiny smile pulled at the corner of her mouth. She drank one mouthful, then another. I lifted my hand. She stopped. For a moment, I thought she might shoot me anyway. Instead, she lowered the crossbow. My name is Liora Vale, Navigator's Apprentice. The Coral Saint sank 2 nights ago. Storm? Privateers. Same thing, in this world. That made her smile again, but only for half a second. I helped her onto the raft. The system did not say party member acquired. It said something better. Survivor rescued. Warning, trust not established. I respected the system more after that. Liora did not become my loyal companion in 5 minutes. She hid a knife in her boot. She slept with her back against the storage box. She asked how much water I had, how long I had been drifting, whether I had seen sails, whether I had a weapon besides the bone cutter. When I asked what was in the crate she had nearly died for, she tightened her fingers around it. Charts. Worth dying over. Worth not letting pirates sell them. I did not ask more. People on the edge of death were allowed to keep a few doors locked. By morning, Liora was awake before me. She stood near the sail, squinting at the color of the water. We're near a reef. You can tell that from water? Water has roads. You just don't know how to read them. She opened the crate. Inside were waterproof tubes full of charts, a brass compass with a cracked face, and a small black ledger. When she saw me looking at the ledger, she closed the crate again. That one is not yours. Good. I don't want more things trying to get me killed. She snorted. The first real argument happened before noon. I wanted to head for Tidebone Reef because of the map fragment. Liora wanted to head east toward the trade current. Ships use that lane. We could signal one. The last ship Noah met threw him into the ocean. You are Noah. Not exactly. She watched me carefully after that. I had said too much. I changed the subject. Tidebone might have wreckage. Wreckage means materials. Wreckage also means reefs. Reefs mean holes in the raft. Holes mean drowning. Trade ships mean nobles. Nobles mean food. Nobles mean chains. She looked away. The word landed harder than I expected. I remembered the orphan house door, the drawing, the privateers, her sunken ship. Finally, Liora said, Tidebone is where slavers dump damaged cargo. She said it like she hated every word. Damaged cargo? People they can't sell. Sick ones. Old ones. Children if they think feeding them costs more than the price. I looked at the endless water. 18 miles suddenly felt very close. We go to Tidebone. Liora's eyes narrowed. To save people? To see if anyone is still alive. That is the same thing with extra steps. No, it's how you stay alive long enough to save someone. She studied me for a long moment. Then she adjusted the sail. Fine, but if the reef tears the raft open, I get to say I warned you. If we're dead, you can haunt me. I plan to. The sea changed by afternoon. Deep blue became green. Then green became glass clear over pale stone. I saw coral below the surface like broken teeth. The raft scraped once. Liora cursed and shoved us away with the broken mast. The system displayed a damage warning. Hull integrity, 61%. Liora pointed ahead. There. Tidebone Reef rose out of the water in jagged rings, a maze of coral shelves and old ship bones. Masts stuck out like dead trees. Nets hung from splintered beams. Crates rolled in the tide. A bell tower from some drowned island leaned sideways in the middle of the reef, half swallowed by salt. And on the highest coral shelf, under a torn sail stretched as a roof, someone had made a signal fire. Smoke curled thinly into the sky, not enough to be seen by distant ships, enough to be seen by us. As we came closer, figures moved in the shadows. 3 people. No, 5. One of them lifted a spear. Another held a child behind his back. Liora raised her crossbow. I lifted both hands. We have water. No one answered. We have fish. That got their attention. A broad-shouldered man with a gray beard stepped forward. He had one leg wrapped in bloody cloth and a hammer in his hand. How much? Enough for a trade. What do you want? I looked at the broken ships around him. Wood, rope, nails, and no one points a spear at my raft. The man laughed without humor. You think this is a market? No, markets have guards. That was almost funny. The man lowered his hammer by 1 inch. His name was Marin Holt. Shipwright. Former free carpenter. Captured by privateers after refusing to repair a slave brig. Dumped at Tidebone when infection took his leg. The others were worse off. A cook named Tess with burns across both arms. A boy called Pip who had not spoken since the slavers threw his sister into another boat. 2 old dockworkers too weak to stand for long. And 3 bodies under canvas at the edge of the shelf. Tidebone was not a village. It was a waiting room for death. I gave them half the fish and 2 mouthfuls of water each. Not because I was noble, because dead people could not help patch a raft. Marin noticed. You count everything. So does the sea. He looked at my raft and winced. That thing should not float. It didn't get the message. He barked a laugh. Then he leaned closer to inspect the knots. Bad rope work. Worse balance. Clever water catcher. Can you fix it? With what? I pointed at the wrecks. Marin looked around the reef as if seeing it differently. Rotten hulls. Broken beams. Bent nails. Torn sails. Trash. To him, maybe grief. To my system, material. To me, a chance. We spent the rest of the day working. Not upgrading. Not magically building a ship. Working. Marin showed me which planks had salt rot and which still had strength in the grain. Liora marked safe channels through the coral. Tess boiled fish bones into a thin broth using a dented copper pot. The old dockworkers untangled nets. Pip watched from the bell tower, silent and wary. At one point, I caught him trying to hide a full water bottle under a broken crate. I grabbed his wrist. He froze like an animal waiting to be hit. Everyone stopped. The raft, the reef, the whole world held its breath. I took the bottle from him. Then I pointed to the water catcher. You get one share like everyone else. You steal it, someone else goes thirsty. Try again, and you work first, drink last. His eyes filled with tears, but he did not cry. Marin watched me closely. He's just a child. I know. That's why he's still standing here. I handed Pip the bottle back. Put it with the others. He did. That night, nobody trusted me more. But they understood the rule. On a raft, fairness was not kindness. It was engineering. If one person took too much, everyone sank. The system finally responded. Community principle established, shared rationing. Base module unlocked, supply crate. Marin saw my face change. What? I think the raft likes rules. That may be the worst sentence I've heard today. By dawn, the raft had become something else. Still ugly, still small, but no longer a death trap. We added 2 proper side floats from sealed barrels. We built a raised platform for storage. We mounted the water catcher higher. We tied old nets under the deck to trap floating debris as we moved. The system named it without asking me. Raft designation updated. Patchwork skiff. Crew capacity. For comfortable, 7 desperate. We had 7, so we were desperate. At midday, Liora climbed the leaning bell tower to check the horizon. When she came down, her face had gone pale. Sails. Marin's jaw tightened. Privateers? Red triangle flag. Tess dropped the ladle. Marin whispered one name. Voss. Captain Darius Voss arrived at Tidebone in a narrow black cutter with iron plates along the bow and 6 armed men on deck. He was not a shouting idiot. That made him worse. He stood calmly at the rail in a weatherproof coat, one hand on the hilt of his sword, looking over the reef like a merchant inspecting inventory. His beard was trimmed. His boots were polished. His eyes were tired. Not cruel in the simple way. Practical. A man who had made peace with every ugly thing he did because it paid on time. Good afternoon. I count 7 living. Better than expected. Nobody answered. Voss's gaze moved to our patched raft. That yours? I stepped forward. Borrowed from the ocean. Then the ocean has terrible taste. His men laughed. Voss did not. He looked at Liora. Navigator girl. I wondered if you drowned. Liora lifted her crossbow. Voss smiled slightly. If that bolt could reach me through wind and motion, you would not still be an apprentice. She did not lower it. He looked at Marin next. Carpenter. Alive too. That is inconvenient. Marin spat into the water. Voss turned back to me. Here is the arrangement. I take the girl, the carpenter, the charts, and any copper you have stripped from the wrecks. The rest of you may keep the reef for another week. No. The word left my mouth before fear could stop it. Voss studied me with mild interest. No. No. You're young. I'll assume you don't understand supply lines. This reef belongs to the Redwake Company by salvage claim. This reef belongs to everyone you dumped here. That is sentimental. Sentiment does not move ships. Neither do dead rowers. His smile faded a little. That one touched something. Not guilt. Calculation. He raised 2 fingers. His men loaded crossbows. Last offer. Give me the charts and the carpenter. I leave you water. We can't fight them. She was right. We could not. Not directly. So I looked at the reef. At the broken bell tower. At the submerged coral teeth. At the nets beneath our new deck. At the barrels tied along the side. At the old chain hanging from a wrecked anchor 20 yards away. Games had taught me to gather materials. The sea had taught me something better. Use the map. I raised my hands. All right. Come take them. Marin stared at me. Tess went pale. Leora's eyes turned murderous. Voss did not move. Smart man. He looked at the water between his cutter and the reef. Too shallow for a clean approach. Too many coral heads. He sent a longboat instead. 4 men rowed in. They came slowly, watching the reef, crossbows ready. I backed toward the bell tower. Noah. Cut the blue rope when I shout. What blue rope? The one I tied to the anchor chain. You tied what to what? No time. The longboat entered the narrow channel. Marin saw the line then. So did Voss. His expression changed. Backwater. Too late. Now. Liora cut the rope. The anchor chain, loosened from the old wreck, slid off the coral shelf, and dropped into the channel. It did not attack the longboat. It blocked it. The rowers tried to reverse. The current caught their stern and twisted them sideways. There, or struck coral. The boat lurched. One man fired too early. His bolt hit the bell tower stone. Pip screamed from above. I threw the hook. Not at the men. At the net bundle tied under our raft. I pulled hard. The net snapped free and drifted into the channel. The current did the rest. It wrapped around the longboat's oars. Marin, bad leg and all, hauled on a second rope. The raft swung sideways behind a coral ridge. Voss's men on the cutter had no clean shot. Tess threw the copper pot. It hit one rower in the face. That should not have been funny. It was. The longboat slammed against coral. Wood cracked. 2 men fell into waist-deep water. The shark returned. Not ours. Not anyone's. Just hungry. The privateers panicked. Voss cursed and ordered covering fire, but he did not send more men in. That was why he was dangerous. He knew when a small loss would become a large one. He watched us from the cutter while his men dragged the damaged longboat free. Then he called out, "Come again. Boy." I stood on the raft, breathing hard. "You have one clever trick. Do not mistake that for a fleet." "I won't." He looked at the reef, the people, the patched skiff. Then at Liora. "Keep the charts for now. They bring bigger trouble than me." His cutter turned with the tide. Before he left, he said one more thing. "The guilds pay for safe lanes. Nobles pay for clean hands. Someone always pays. When they ask who embarrassed me at Tidebone, what name should I sell them?" I said nothing. Marin answered for me. "This is Tidepost." I looked at him. He looked back, stubborn as old wood. "Not Tidebone anymore. Bones are what you leave behind." Voss smiled faintly. "Tidepost, then." The black cutter sailed away. Nobody cheered. We were too tired, too scared, too aware that Voss was right. One trick was not a fleet, but we had survived him. That night, I climbed the bell tower alone. The child's drawing from the orphan house door was still in my shirt. I unfolded it and looked at the 6 stick figures holding hands on a dock. Below me, 7 people slept on planks that had been trash yesterday. A water catcher clicked softly as drops fell into bottles. Nets dragged through the tide. Somewhere under the raft, the sea carried more wreckage toward us. The system appeared. Settlement seed formed. Tidepost. Population, 7. Defense, terrible. Food security, bad. Morale, unstable. Founding bonus available. Choose one, fortify. Farm. Salvage. I did not choose right away. I listened to the waves. Then to the breathing below. 7 desperate people on a reef full of wrecks, surrounded by privateers, nobles, and a sea that killed without malice. I chose salvage. The system chimed. Founding trait selected. Nothing is useless. All around Tidepost, the wrecks glowed faintly in my sight. Not treasure. Not weapons. Possibilities. A broken door. A cracked bell. A drowned sail. A rusted chain. A place where people had been thrown away. I closed my fist around the shark-tooth knife. The ocean had given me trash. I was going to build with it. End of episode 1.